Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday night. Buck Rising back here with you. Titans and Cardinals joint practices took place today on the field at St. Thomas Sports Park. No joint work for the two teams tomorrow, even though they are going to practice, and the Cardinals are still here in Nashville. Arizona is going to go to Vandy's practice facility, and the Titans will hold practice at their shop, but for different reasons, the two teams have decided to only take advantage of one day of these joint training camp practice activities. But with difficult decisions all over the roster right now, we're going to talk about some of the more perplexing ones that this staff is going to have to make. We'll talk about matchups between the Titans and the Cardinals that we're excited to watch, and the anniversary of Andrew Luck's retirement 3 years ago today. That was of great consequence in the NFL world, and particularly in the AFC South. Happy to have you guys in for tonight's show. Would love you even more. I love you already, but I would love you even more if you shared this show wherever it is that you're hanging out with us. If you are on YouTube or Twitch like Jason Lewis or Aaron Goff, please subscribe to the A to Z Sports channel. Throw a like on the video if you would, and we would appreciate that help. If you are on Facebook Live like Demetrius Conwell or Lloyd Collier, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Twitter like I am right now, you can retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and let your Twitter people know that we're hanging out here on a Wednesday night. And once you've shared the show, we can get this thing off and rolling officially. I've done it now, so can we. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday night. I'm your host, Buck Rising, if you're new, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by our friends at Superbook Sports. Your first bet up to $1,000, Superbook Sports will match, even if it wins or loses. Download the Superbook Sports app and start betting today. Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, the Intel edge you need to succeed, can be found at GaryAshton.com. Two Rivers Ford, the best car buying experience possible since 1983, operating with honesty and integrity. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So, working through practice today, there was a lot of different things that jumped out to me. First and foremost, I think, was the offense not performing very well for the first team, for the second team. I thought the Cardinals offense did not look very good against the Titans defense. It was just a generally slow day for offensive football when these two teams got together. Now, the way that it worked is they separated for the vast majority of practice, but they came back together to do 2-minute and some team drills. But for the most part, they were on opposite practice fields throughout the course of the day. So with all that being said, and seeing where the two teams are health-wise, it's like, okay, you understand, final week of the regular season. You don't want anybody to get banged up in practice. You don't want anybody who of consequence to get hurt. Well, you don't want anybody in the first place to get hurt in the final preseason game, but you certainly don't want your important players getting hurt in the final preseason game. So everybody, let's just get a little bit of competitive work in and then chill the F out, which was basically the approach. But watching a couple of different positions today, I think that it brings up an interesting conversation about the most difficult decision to make on the Titans roster this year. So I want to ask you that question. What is the most difficult decision to make on the Titans roster this year? Let's talk about it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We'll get into it together. There's a variety of different ones. Certainly, we talked last night about the punting situation. That is something that will continue to be monitored. I am looking at a couple of different things like Caleb Farley, which is I think a difficult decision to make, whether you start him or put Roger McCreary out there. What is the most difficult decision on the Titans roster from your standpoint? Let's see. Gino says, hey, Buck, saw you on earlier video with the new guy and you had your sunglasses on. That's right. Don't do that, man. Looks silly and disrespectful. Gino, am I looking at a picture where you're wearing sunglasses and a picture telling me not to wear sunglasses in a video? I don't understand. What I'm deeply confused by that. But okay. I'm probably still gonna wear sunglasses because it's sunny out there and I'm at Titans practice. And also, those are really nice sunglasses. So if I was ever gonna look disrespectful in sunglasses, then I might as well do it in my Gucci's. For Sin City Titan, he says shouldn't expect much else with this roster with the offensive linemen we have on the team. Scary situation. Nate Davis didn't practice again today, and Nick Petit Frere took a lot of reps with the ones. Jordan Roos, number 70, who is somebody that has played more and more in these preseason games. I think the team likes him. There have been some positive snaps for him, and I thought that on the whole, like Dylan Radins wasn't terrible. I saw some good run blocking snaps, but in pass pro, not good. And the offensive line is a difficult decision to make because you're not really sure who the best players are right now. Buck was shook by Sam, says Sin City Titan. I was shook because his voice got deeper when he started talking into a microphone. Like I thought he was doing a bit, but I guess like he was yelling very loudly. And Sam is Sam. It's the first one of those that I've done with Sam. I thought he did a good job, but yeah, he dropped his voice on me as soon as he turned the live stream on, and I looked around and I was like, "What are you doing? Why do you sound different when we're broadcasting here?" So I hope I hope I didn't call him out too badly. Let us see the most difficult situation for the Titans on the roster this year. Let's talk about it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You are going to hear from a difficult position or a difficult decision to make on the roster here in just a second, right after I remind you about Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford is where you go for the best in the business, for the best car buying experience humanly possible. A non-commissioned sales staff that does not put any pressure on you throughout the course of the car buying experience. Two Rivers Ford will be there for you and work with you no matter how it is that you like to shop, whether you're looking for new, pre-owned, available on the lot, or built for you. That's the beauty of Two Rivers Ford. They're going to find any number of ways to make your deal possible. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So the difficult decisions on the roster to make right now, and the punter situation is probably the most difficult. But since we did a whole show on punter competition last night, I think that is probably something that we can all agree upon is going to be a situation to continue to monitor. MB says, I guess it's going to be glasses, less Buck going forward. No, I'm absolutely still going to wear my glasses when although that yesterday was my last radio show at training camp. I'm not going out tomorrow, so I don't know how many more of those Austin and Sam are going to do. I don't think Austin's going tomorrow either, so we'll see if Sam does one by himself. But regardless, I'm probably going to have my sunglasses on if I'm outside. Imagine the Colts sitting back waiting to pick up whatever punter we cut. Vultures. Man, yeah, that's what we talked about last night, Sin City. The idea that Brett Kern could end up a Colt, that would be painful for a lot of you. That would be a difficult decision. Trevor Thomas says, look at that number 12 on the graphic. It's our dad. Yes, Andrew Luck did retire as your daddy against the Titans a couple of years ago, but we'll get to that later on. I think the most difficult decision on the roster is how they're going to play all these defensive backs, specifically the corners. And they did make a trade for Hugo Ahmadi today. Formerly of the Seahawks, was an Eagle for apparently less than 10 days before the Titans traded for him. So he has played in the slot as a starter for Seattle and an Overton High School product here out of Nashville. But how to get all these defensive backs on the field, and really we know which ones are their best defensive backs, but there's a lot of different guys that they have the ability to deploy.
What do you tell young guys? Obviously, cuts going on. There'll be a lot more next week. What do you tell young guys that are in the room who obviously know what's coming to kind of focus and not pay attention to it? Is that hard to do, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult, but guys are always, they're thinking, you think about it, so you can't act like it's not there. But, I mean, we just tell our guys to keep competing and keep playing. Like, I mean, no matter what's going on, if you just full go, keep learning, keep listening. I mean, it's not just the Titans that are looking at you. There's other teams around the league that are looking at you. So just do it for your teammates and then do it for yourself and go out there and finish.
So that is Amani Hooker, Titans starting safety, talking about, the young group of guys that they have. Now, again, Elijah Molden did not practice today. So you saw some Roger McCreary snaps on the outside. You saw some Roger McCreary snaps in nickel and in the slot, playing for the Titans defense today. If Molden is more hurt than we might imagine, if this costs him playing time, as it has cost him a considerable amount of practice time right now. He missed a chunk of about 2 weeks earlier in training camp, and he's kind of been on and off the field in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, that does complicate things because Molden is a really good player in the slot. Now, I think that Farley is good enough to play on the outside and put McCreary in the slot. But beyond that, Chris Jackson is hurt right now. The trade for Hugo Ahmadi, as we talked about, they have rotated 75 different safeties through this roster throughout the course of, I think it's been a little less than a month that we've been doing training camp right now. And that is a position where a lot of turnover has taken place. But I think as far as difficulty of decision, it's just going to be, okay, who do we keep? Who do we like? Who gives us the best ability to do the most? And also, how can we get all these different guys on the field right now? That's the kind of thing that kind of pops for me about their defensive back situation. And, outside of the Titan, outside of the punter, the Titans punter competition, that's probably the most difficult decision that they have to make right now. Let's see. Most difficult decision on the roster. Jeremy Michael says maybe an offensive lineman will come available. We will see next Tuesday, when they make the biggest cut of the three, the cut from 80 down to 53. Kevin Jones says Molden is hurt more than they are telling us. I'm less concerned about Elijah Molden than I am about damn Danico Autry. Today was day 23 without having seen Danico Autry on the practice field. So luckily DeMarcus Walker, I think, is going to be a player for you guys. But, obviously, I think that like Jeff and Harold and Bud are all great, certainly. But I think the thing that really put that defensive line group over the top was how damn good Danico Autry was. And so if there's a drop-off there, how much more pressure does it put on the other three? I think that they, Walker and Weaver will give them some flexibility. I really, really like Ola Adeni. I know that they do too, because he plays not just his position, but he plays a lot of special teams. And he's been disruptive throughout the course of the preseason. So, the depth there you feel pretty confident in. But Danico Autry is far more concerning to me than Elijah Molden, just because I know how great that guy was for this defense last year. Most difficult decision, says Drake on YouTube, is whether to keep 6+ defensive linemen or not. I would be shocked if they kept more than 6 defensive linemen. That would seem to be wild to me. Demetrius asked, what's the issue with Autry? Of course, they're not going to tell us that, Demetrius, but he did have some knee stuff last year. I think that they are I think that they are just kind of trying to take it easy with an older player who's who's clearly dealing with some lower body stuff. So I'm seeing let's see. Buck, what about the quarterback job? The quarterback job is Ryan Tannehill's, Aaron. So I'm not certain what there is to talk about the quarterback job. Kevin Harris has continually just said Burks ? Exclamation. But what about him? He left the practice field today. He didn't do team stuff. That's it. Like, I don't know what more context you want me to add there to the Traylon Burks deal. Like, I saw him come out, saw him warm up, saw him go back inside. That was about the extent of the Traylon Burks day. It's obviously not ideal. Like, you want that guy to continue to stay out on the practice field, but that is not something that, I think it's just been a general lack of consistency. Is he hurt? I mean, he's probably dealing with something. Like they do this all the time. They put these guys on individual practice plans. Ben Jones won't come out for the start of practice, and then all of a sudden, like, Ben Jones won't come out and warm up, and then we'll say, okay, there's no Ben Jones at the start of practice, and then all of a sudden they'll break off for individual drills, and out comes Ben Jones trotting out of the locker room because for whatever reason. I didn't see Burks come back out to practice, and again, he didn't do all of the team stuff. at this point. But yeah, I mean, what more do you until he does something tangible and until I see something notable from Treylon Burks, and I didn't see anything notable injury wise today. I'm not gonna. I don't know why there's so much. I don't think we have to spend time on Treylon Burks when he's not necessarily a factor just yet. Now we can spend time on the idea that the first round pick is not a factor just yet. But like, aren't you guys tired of this shit with him? I mean, just the general conversation, like there's no new information. So I guess I made producer Reed laugh with that one, but like, I don't know what more we can provide to you. Obviously, you would want to know if like more detail on injury information. And of course, we're not going to get that because Mike Vrabel is never going to give that up. But with all the different discussions of Treylon Burks and this offseason and on and on and on it goes, it's just like, okay, like what more do you want me to say about the dude? I'm tired of it. I'm happy to talk about it if you guys want to, but like I said, it's just, there's nothing more there for me to say right now. Ice pack in Saturday's game for Burks, says Chris Frazier. Yeah, but he did what did he do in practice where he came up limping last week? Came up limping at the end of practice last week in 2 minutes. He didn't end up having to go back out on the practice field. He didn't leave practice field. It was a left leg situation. He came off limping. And then like the next couple of days in practice, he came out and worked, but he didn't do all the drills. So yeah, he's probably dealing with a little something, but like there's a bunch of dudes dealing with a little something all the time. You guys don't freak out every time Dylan Cole's not out on the field. There's no new news on the situation other than, yeah, he left practice today. So I understand your angst, but also like enough with the Treylon Burks stuff when we spent so much of our time already on it. All right. Which matchup are you most excited to watch between the Titans and the Cards? Let's talk about it. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Twitch. We saw a couple of different ones today that I think we are obviously not going to see in the preseason game because those guys aren't going to play. But that's the question that I want to ask you. Which players are you looking forward to watching match up against one another on Saturday at Nissan Stadium? Give me your answer. We'll talk about it together right after I tell you about our friends at Superbook Sports. We are live from the Superbook Sports studio. You can be live with Vegas in the palm of your hand this football season. They have lines up in the Superbook Sports app for every NFL game already. You can bet the entire 18-week slate right now at Superbook Sports. They also have odds boosts like the Tennessee Titans to win the AFC South, boosted up to plus 250. Superbook Sports is where you go. So, what is the best position battle to watch on the roster or between the Titans and the Cards right now? I'm looking forward to watching Malik Willis get back out there. A welcome to the NFL moment, for lack of a better term. Just kind of something that you've been working through that you haven't necessarily seen before, or things that you may not have had to experience yet that you've gotten to experience in the last couple of weeks.
I mean, ever since I got here, working the huddle, that was probably the biggest thing at first because you go from having 25 seconds, 30 seconds on the play clock because we're going fast and we're in no huddle to having like 15 and the mic cutting off at 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's like, you better get it while you live. And you better get up there and be able to make these checks and be able to see what's going on and get the snap off within a timely manner.
Was that kind of like disorienting the first time you went through it?
And practice?
Yeah.
No, because he didn't have a time limit. But I think that helped, though, being able to practice that every day.
How are you? So that's Malik Willis on the radio show. By the way, you can go check out that interview. Malik was really fun to hang out with for a segment today. You can go and listen to that full interview in my radio show's podcast feed. Real simple. Just search the Buck Rising Show. Also on the radio show tomorrow, our friend Diana Rossini, an NFL insider for ESPN. So if you want to go check out any of the great camp interviews that we've done, by the way, I got to say thank you to the Titans really quickly because they made all kinds of people available for me at training camp, which was huge throughout the course of our training camp shows out there. John Robinson, Amani Hooker, Roger McCreary, Taylor Lawan, Malik Willis. Who else did we have? Rashad Weaver, I mean, there is a lot of different players that we had the chance to catch up with that I really enjoyed getting to know a little better, and having a Traylon Burks was on the radio show. Like, very, very grateful to the Titans for making life easy on us out there by bringing over some guys who I know a lot of you want to hear from. So you can catch any of those interviews that we did throughout the course of training camp in the radio show's podcast feed. Okay, so matchups to watch at this point. Malik Willis for me is the thing that's going to kind of carry the day. You know that like Taylor Lawan is probably not going to play in this game. I saw somebody bring up Taylor Lawan versus Chandler Jones. First of all, Chandler Jones plays for the Raiders this year. He does not play for the Cardinals. And the Raiders are here in week 3, so Taylor Lawan and Chandler Jones will get another crack at each other, and we'll see if that goes any better for Lawan than it did in week 1 of last year when Chandler Jones and frankly that Arizona defense just straight dummied the Titans offensive line. It's brutal to watch. I think I would be curious to see how much Caleb Farley plays. I think that is going to be a story. I think how little somebody like Roger McCreary ends up playing, I think that's going to be a situation to monitor as well, because that would be a good indication of, who they're trying to make sure is ready to go for week 1, as opposed to who they need to see a little more from with about 3 weeks left to go. Let's see. I can't imagine games 3 will change anything. Change anything for who? Just on the whole, it can make a difference for some guys. Obviously, they have to field teams, but like I think game 3 means something for Des Fitzpatrick. I think game 3 means something for Logan Woodside. I think game 3 means something for Logan Woodside, for example, because of how much can Malik do right now, and can you get away with keeping only 2 quarterbacks once the regular season starts? At this point, probably not. Like when you hear Malik, they're talking about working a huddle. That's not an unimportant thing for an NFL quarterback to be able to handle. And I think it's totally fine that that's something that he's, had to get used to, because it's not something he did in college. Again, very, very basic, granular level stuff. But Logan Woodside, the nature of his position here, whether it's on the active roster or the practice squad, by the time they make these final cuts, I think this is a circumstance for them where you'll get to see a lot of Malik Willis, and they'll say, okay, we're either comfortable with where he is in the operations point of things, or we'll say, okay, he's not ready yet. We need Woodside for the time being. Our bye week, the bye week's pretty early. I think it's like week 6, maybe. Like it's fairly early at this point. So, 6 weeks into the season, maybe we need to make some roster adjustments. Maybe Malik will be more ready then. Who knows? We'll find out. We'll find that out in more detail as these things go along. I think the Titans would know that by now, says Cincinnati, and I'd agree. They do, in all likelihood, know that right now. But I do still think that there's some things that you can put on tape and that practice can show you, but that can look different in game operations than in a practice setting. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can make the mistakes in practice and then make the corrections on the field, and you come back and say, okay, pretty good, pretty impressive. He feels like he's on solid ground, or not. Who knows? Buck says, MB, the problem is, though, a lot of what happens to Woodside is out of his hands. It's about Malik does more. Oh, there's no question. There's no disputing that whatsoever. Logan Woodside, they know what he is. Everybody knows what Logan Woodside is. Greg Cosell and I talked about Logan Woodside today, and basically Greg said, yeah, the entire league knows he's not a starting NFL quarterback. And by the way, Malik Willis isn't a starting NFL quarterback right now. Like, that's no small thing for Woodside or Malik or anybody else. I mean, Mitch Trubisky is not an NFL starting quarterback right now, and he may well have to start games for the Pittsburgh Steelers, though it looks like that's going to be Kenny Pickett's job, for example, right? I think all those different things you have to say and you have to keep in mind for the depth and the ultimate success of the football team. And it's not like it's set in stone as soon as the regular season begins, right? They can readjust the roster, the personnel, and change the math where they need to at different positions. So I'm looking forward to watching Malik. Malik has been pretty good at this point. If they cut Kern, says Neil Patel, don't see that happening, but do you see them spending that money on a right tackle or a left guard? So I was texting people about this today, and I need, hang on. I need to pull up the text. Sorry, there was a different text that somebody shot me about a Mike Vrabel situation. So the $2.75 million cap hit that Brett Kern currently carries, it won't be about money unless they trade him to free them of the $2.75 million. So it's not like he's just a clean cap cut. He still counts against the cap. It's not like that money just becomes available with the way that they restructured his contract, remember, because he did take a pay cut, but they also did restructure his deal. He gave them back $1 million. But the way that it was described to me is that it won't be about money unless they trade him to free them of $2.75 million. And that was a text from a source very close to the situation, shall we say. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And tackles and guards that come available, whether they end up on this roster or not, we'll at least wait another week before things like that start to materialize. All right, let's talk about Andrew Luck, who retired as your dad. That is something that was a suffering for Titans fans until the end of time. It is the 3-year anniversary today, probably about this hour, as a matter of fact, where Andrew Luck at halftime, I think, of a Colts preseason game, it was reported by Adam Schefter that Andrew Luck would be retiring from football. I don't think he was yet 30. I think Andrew Luck was like 28. So what do you remember most about Andrew Luck's retirement on the 3-year anniversary today? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Let's talk about it together right after I tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. We're going to give you the intel on Andrew Luck, but you can get the intel with the Gary Ashton team on this Nashville real estate market. GaryAshton.com. That's where you go for the intel edge that you need to succeed, for the best in the business, for the best properties, for the best information, for the best value on your home, whether you're buying or selling. Gary Ashton is the place that you go. GaryAshton.com for more information. What is your biggest memory of the day that Andrew Luck retired? Alan Lathrop says, I remember the Colts fans booing him. Yes, that is correct. Booing in ways that the guy was retiring because his body was physically failing him. He had done everything humanly possible for that organization, and the Colts fans booed him as he walked off the field. Ken Caniff says, Buck equals Luck's burner account. No, I don't think Andrew would use the kind of language that I use on Twitter. But maybe I'll keep you guessing. Luck WTF says Brian Badillo, a bunch of thumbs downs. Yeah, Luck matters very much in the history of this franchise because, as I said, he retired with an 11-0 record against you. It's not like he was insignificant in the history of your franchise, and he obviously played a great deal for why the Titans kind of came into the Colts have been tail spinning basically since Luck retired, and that has opened the door for the Titans to be able to take advantage. Luck leaving has been your greatest victory, indisputably. Like, I know Houston made a little noise in there, and there's one stray Jags year, but I think Luck was still in the division when Blake Bortles played in an AFC championship game. But the best thing that's happened to you is this guy leaving the sport. Now, what I remember is being out on Broadway that night with a bunch of friends. I got the tweet. We went on a live stream. I shouldn't have done a live stream because I was definitely drinking. It was my first, it was like the first couple of months that I worked for A to Z. So it was something that was a huge story at the time. And I remember being very, very intrigued about it and watching intently his entire press conference the next day. But 3 years ago today, Andrew Luck retiring obviously changed fortunes very, very much so in favor of the local professional football team.
Unrelenting, both in season, both in and off season. And I felt stuck in it, and the only way I see out is to no longer play football. It's taken my joy of this game away, and this. Sorry. I've been stuck in this process. I haven't been able to live the life I want to live, taking the joy out of this game. And after 2016, where I played in pain and was unable to regularly practice, I made a vow to myself that I would not go down that path again. I find myself in a similar situation, and the only way forward for me is to remove myself from football in this cycle that I've been in. Come to the proverbial fork in the road, and I made a vow to myself that if I ever did again, I would choose me in a sense. It's very difficult. I love this team. I love my teammates, the folks in our building, the fans, the game of football, and as part of this team, as a member of this team, and because of how I feel, I know that I am unable to pour my heart and soul into this position, which would not only sell myself short, but the team in the end as well. And it's sad, but I also have a lot of clarity in this. It's been a difficult process, but my wife, my family, my friends, Mr. Ballard, Mr. Ursay, the Ursay family, and Frank Reich have been incredibly helpful, supportive, and I'm so grateful for them.
It sucks. It sucks that he retired when he did. Now, not if you're a Titans fan, like so many of you are, that he retired when he did, because like I said, he was undefeated against you during his time in the NFL. But I loved to watch Andrew Luck play. That dude was electric, absolutely electric. And to see how that changed because they didn't properly protect him. The offensive line was consistently an issue. It was just as a football fan, it's kind of like Trevor Lawrence. I look at Trevor Lawrence kind of in the same way. Like, I get why Titans fans, I get why you wouldn't want Trevor Lawrence to do well, because you root for the Titans and you want to see your team succeed, and the Jags are in your division. But like, just as a football fan, don't you want to see Trevor Lawrence be fun? Like, even if it's like on a bye week or when the Titans play on Thursday night, so you don't got to sweat them on a Sunday and you're watching Red Zone. Don't you want to see fun quarterbacks making plays in the league? For Luck and for Lawrence, for Justin Fields. I want to see this happen for Justin Fields. I'm terrified that Chicago's going to ruin him. I want to see that dude succeed at the highest level, because more good quarterbacks is better for the health of the sport. And certainly for Luck, it's not been the same ever since. They've had Carson Wentz and a other, like, Phillip Rivers at the end, and Matt Ryan at the end of his career now, and Jacoby Brissett, and all kinds of different issues that they've had since he decided to retire 3 years ago. But the thing that I remember most is one, him being booed. I think that's everybody's biggest memory of how that situation went down, when he was standing on the sidelines of a preseason game, got told that Adam Schefter broke the news while the preseason game was going on. Everybody in the stadium saw it, and then booed him as he walked off the field. So that was something that you really, really hated to see for a player that had been so great for a franchise that, I think did him dirty. I think did him dirty at the end. Anyway, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. 2016, Amar says, is when Brian Arakpo slammed him on that shoulder. Luck hasn't been right since. He had so many injuries. If you go back and look at like how many different things that Andrew Luck had to deal with throughout the course of his year, like, you would go back and say, okay, that's really it's hugely responsible of him to recognize that and leave at the top when the money is really, really good. But yeah, I think he dealt with it like ankle, with shoulder, with he had a lacerated, I think it was a lacerated kidney or a lacerated spleen, some kind of laceration to an organ that made it sound deeply uncomfortable to continue to do his job. Gino says, Buck, stop saying you cover this team. This is your team also, or you don't cover them properly with an antagonistic attitude. Stop going out of your way to show you are not a Titans fan. It's uncomfortable and confrontational. Yeah, Gino, I don't give a shit. I just like, okay. That's literally the way that I've been doing my job for 7 years. So, if you don't like it, you got to eat it at this point, because I'm obviously not going to change that. And I don't think I go out of my way to intentionally distance myself, but yeah, I am cognizant of the fact that you guys, in places where I need to let you know where my sensibilities are. I think that's fine, and I think it's fine if you don't necessarily like that all the time. You'll get over it. You're a big boy, or at least I think you are. Or maybe you should stop being so disrespectful and wearing glasses and things like your Facebook profile picture. Who knows? Diana Rossini on the radio show tomorrow. One more primetime show left to do Thursday night, 8 p.m. Have a great rest of your evening. Go check out the install with Greg Cosell. We did a lot of good work today on Roger McCreary, Malik Willis, Dylan Radens, Nick Petit Frere, and Caleb Farley. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. or if not, 8 p.m.